Love it.
Is that riskier, both for club and individual, or more for individual than club, or not risky at all?
Yeah, with all what's going on behind the scenes at Chelsea, in terms of giving managers opportunity and time to do what they need to do. We thought Rossini was going to get longer period at Chelsea. But a manager who's won trophies, he's managed at big club, is experienced. I think it's a perfect fit if he has control on recruitment. And everyone talks about Chelsea's signings. They've got some good young players there. They just need the right manager to take that talent forward. And I think it could be a great appointment. I really do.
And every decision's a risk, isn't it? Whether it be Alonso, Chelsea, Carrick, there's always a risk involved. And I still think managers don't know until they get into the building. Mike has made the point there, will he be in charge of recruitment? These things we probably don't know, and they might give him the thumbs up before he gets in the job, and then you get in there, slightly different. People move the goalposts. But it always seems a tough ask. It looks like, so I always get the impression, again, the lunatics are on the asylum down there. Just looks a bit of a madhouse.
Well, he's going to have authority, hasn't he, because of the club.
He's going to have a what?
He's going to have authority.
Yes.
Because of the club that he's managed. But also, he's very detailed in his coaching. And I think for the young players, you can't get anyone better on the market right now for that. So I'm excited by it. I think it'll be a good fit. I want to see how he fares in the Premier League. And hopefully he's got the time.
Would it help if they don't qualify for Europe?
Of course it would. I look at Man United this season. No European football, one game a week, and you've seen the
And that's the challenges that United will, of course, face next year. More games, bit of travel and more pressure on the players to turn up week in, week out. Yeah, that's the other challenge when you're in Europe, of course. That might be a plus for Chelsea not to be in.
And the final thing with Chelsea is Xabi Alonso often played with three at the back for Bayer Leverkusen, and having seen them in the cup final yesterday, three at the back may work for them, Chelsea. Or is that going one step too far?
No, I like your thinking. I just feel sometimes three at the back is negative. I know it worked for him at Leverkusen, they went unbeaten, he was outstanding. Obviously went to Madrid, couldn't really deal with the big personalities, but because Chelsea have got a younger squad, I think he's flexible. He can go with a 4, he can go with a 5, he can go with a 3, and that's what's exciting about it.
How long's he signed for?
4 years.
Oh, 4 years, right. Okay. What was Rossini? Was he
6 years?
6 years.
Yeah, be gone by Christmas.
Good after 6.5 hours, we've ended on a positive. Right.
6? It's more than that. It's 8.5.
Yeah, it's 8.5.
I didn't say which Christmas.
You didn't say which Christmas, and it's 6.5 because time has flown by with you. There you go. Right, let's...
Hello and welcome back to Premier League Live, where we focus in on all things Chelsea, because, of course, earlier on today, the news broke that Xabi Alonso is now the new Chelsea manager. He signed on a 4-year deal. So let's just show you exactly what he had to say about being the Chelsea boss. He said, Chelsea is one of the biggest clubs in world football, and it fills me with immense pride to become manager of this great club. From my conversations with the ownership group and sporting leadership, it's clear we share the same ambition. We want to build a team capable of competing consistently at the highest level and fighting for trophies. There is great talent in the squad and huge potential at this football club, and it will be my great honour to lead it. Now the focus is on hard work, building the right culture and winning trophies. And I know all Chelsea fans are very delighted that last bit, because they do want to win trophies.
That's what it is.
Yeah, it is. Were you surprised, first of all? Or, Peter, were you surprised?
But I think, talking about winning trophies, that's jumping the gun a little bit. I think that word before, culture, building culture, I think
is important.
That's got to be his first really, really big job. And I think it's interesting that he's not a head coach. He's a manager. And I think that speaks for itself. He says that he's had conversation with the ownership and leadership of the club. And I think that he said, if I'm taking this job, then it's me, I'm in charge. And I think Chelsea needs that.
Yeah, and I think that it probably tells us a lot about maybe how the ownership are looking at this appointment, saying that he is a manager, not a head coach. Do you think it means that they're going to change their way slightly and know that they can't just churn through managers as they have been? They have to give him time, give him a bit more say in what goes on behind the scenes, and hopefully he'll be able to make an impact.
Yeah, I'd imagine, Alonso's done his research. He sees what's happened at Chelsea. He's not going to go into this job blindly thinking, OK, I know what's happened with the previous managers, but I'm happy just to, go along with the situation. I would have hoped there's been promises made. He's got a certain degree of control over players coming in. team selection, because we hear that's been the issue in the past with previous managers. And if those promises have been made, then he's going to have that control. It's interesting, he's coming as a manager, not a head coach, you know, so that suggests that there is going to be that element of control, you know, but we'll see, you know, in his statement, he said all the right things in terms of it's a fantastic club, it's a fantastic squad, we want to win trophies, but we'll see. The first few months is going to be very interesting, you know, because we've seen the owners haven't got much patience, the fans don't have much patience, so he needs to hit the ground running.
Yeah, and Chelsea hasn't really been the easiest place for a manager. We've seen it with Maresca when he fell out with the owners. We saw it with Liam, and he was given, 3 months. So what's going to be different about...
Something like
so what's different about Xabi then? Because he does come with pedigree, doesn't he?
Yeah. So his coaching career has been very impressive, I have to say. He went to Bayer Leverkusen. He made them champions for the first time in their club history. And we see he had for 140 games. He won 88 of those games with a 62, nearly 63% win rate. That's impressive. We shouldn't talk about Real Madrid, because obviously everything was laid on his shoulders, you know, when he got sacked, when he lost the Super Cup to Barcelona. But we've seen in the aftermath of that all the trouble that was at Real Madrid, and it's all blowing up now. But this doesn't really tell the story. So when he went to Bayer Leverkusen and he won the Bundesliga, he did it without losing a game. No one's ever done that before. They ended up in the Europa League final and they lost to Atalanta. Had they not lost, it would have been, you know, a whole season without losing a game. So that's a little bit of a shame. But he's also broken another record, 51 consecutive games without losing. It's a European record. And that's pedigree. That's what Chelsea, the hierarchy, they're looking at. Somebody who's got that kind of, I used the word pedigree before, I'll use it again. Someone who can do that. And you can argue a lot about the Bundesliga. Bundesliga is a strong league. And to jump in the middle of a long Bayern Munich winning streak and actually change that is a very, very big achievement. Can he do that with Chelsea? Well, of course, they're hopeful they can do that, but it's a big job. But he's got what it takes.
Yeah, and I mean,
that.
He's managed Real Madrid, and that's not an easy club to manage by any means.
He comes prepared.
Exactly. But Chelsea, what sort of problems does he face? What does he need to fix first, do you think?
Well, he's going to have to deal with the hierarchy. That's going to be an issue, how he manages that situation. Like I said, you would have hoped he'd come into the club, had the conversations in terms of how much control he's going to have. And there's some top players in the squad, there's no denying that. But they've not been performing at the levels they should be. You know, you look at the likes of Enzo Fernandez, Caicedo, Cole Palmer, Reece James.
So much talent there.
You know, so much talent there. I'm sure a lot of managers will love to have a squad like that, but there's something missing there. And it's interesting, in Alonso's statement, he says building the culture, building the right culture. And I think that's the key to Chelsea. And if they're going to improve, that culture needs to be right.
Yeah.
Joining me to discuss it all, sports broadcaster and commentator Jackie Oatley, Jason Burt, chief football correspondent for the Daily Telegraph, and Mark Ogden, senior writer for ESPN. Great to have you all here. Let's see what's making the headlines this morning. Touch of class is the headline in the Sunday Times, with a picture of Antoine Semenyo with the FA Cup. And below that, Alonso set for 4-year contract to take charge of Chelsea. The Sunday Telegraph calls it Semenyo's stunner, and on the right there, now Salah throws Slot under bus in stinging post. The Mail on Sunday's back page is party pooper, and below that, heart slam, shameful scenes at Celtic. The Observer Sports Supplement has a striking picture of Pep Guardiola at Wembley. The flame still burns is their headline. The Sun on Sunday says mind a treble as Pep Guardiola bans his players from drinking to celebrate their FA Cup win. While in Scotland, this is the front page of the Sun, forced to flee, Hearts fury on pitch chaos. And thrill is the headline in the Sunday Express, and there's a story about Manchester United and Elliot Anderson. The Star on Sunday goes with Ant and Decked. And finally, the Sunday Mirror, which focuses on Arsenal, who are 2 wins away from becoming champions. Paint the town red is the message from Martin Zubimendi. To it then, and let's start with Saturday's FA Cup final. Manchester City beating Chelsea by 1-0 at Wembley. But the big news after the final is the imminent arrival of Xabi Alonso. The Sunday Times has gone with that on their front page. Alonso set for 4-year contract to take charge at Chelsea, and the Sunday Telegraph's Matt Law says Chelsea players have been informed that Alonso will be their new head coach and are said to be excited by his appointment. While Chelsea have not promised Alonso full control, he'll be given a more meaningful role in the club's decision-making than some of his predecessors. Jackie, let me start with you. Are you surprised that Chelsea have got him, and are you surprised he's taken it?
No, not really. I think the surprise really is maybe that if he was going to come to the Premier League, the theory was to Liverpool, but I'm sure we'll be talking about Liverpool in due course. I quite like Rory Smith's take on it in The Observer today, where he described the appointment as surprisingly sensible for Chelsea, bearing in mind the last few appointments haven't necessarily been the case. It smacks of the Chelsea hierarchy realising where they've been going wrong. I think a lot of us wanted it to work for Liam Rosenior for a multitude of reasons. It just didn't, and the players themselves took matters into their own hands in terms of seeming to show up when they felt like it and turning it on when they felt like it, and you simply can't have that. So they need this new era of authority, and he will, by all accounts, be named as a manager rather than a head coach for the first time since Jose Mourinho. And it just really feels like at Chelsea they need the manager to be the one calling the shots. They have so much going on above with the 5 different sporting directors, which in itself is pretty extraordinary. But they need the manager, somebody who will command the respect of the dressing room, having won everything himself as a player and having already proved himself as a manager. Real Madrid, OK, we can kind of take that out and put it down to experience. There are reasons why it didn't go right there. But I think this is a really, really good appointment.
Jason, the headline in The Sun on Sunday is Blues and Twos, incoming boss Alonso's huge fix to fix emergency situation. Dan King's piece starts, there is no trophy to paper over the cracks of Chelsea's disastrous season, and the imminent appointment of Xabi Alonso will only be a sticking plaster unless the Blues owners are serious about a change of direction. This structure, this infamous structure, if you like, has not worked out well for his predecessors, and there have been many of them, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Why will this be different?
Because I think, as Jackie says, I mean, they've obviously shifted a little bit in terms of the way they're going to organise themselves. They've got a manager who's coming in as a manager. OK, what's interesting is Chelsea are briefing that they have decided to call him manager, that he's not asked to be manager. He was happy to be a head coach. Obviously, he's been a head coach at Real Madrid, head coach at Bayer Leverkusen. I think this is a different dimension in terms of the stature of the person who's coming into the club. I think there's an awful thing about Chelsea's structure is obviously it's not been working. I think they're not stupid people, though. You know, they will learn. And I think, obviously, we've talked about this before in the past, a lot of people come into football, going to reinvent the wheel, going to change things. And obviously, it needs to evolve. But there are certain things that obviously haven't worked at Chelsea that they need to remedy. Bringing somebody like Xabi Alonso in, I think they've really lucked out with him. I think he's a manager who can give them the kind of organisation, the kind of leadership that they've lacked in the past. They've got the balance all wrong in the past, and they seem to be readdressing that a little bit. I think Dan's take is a little bit over the top. I don't think it's a complete disaster at Chelsea. I think they have done some quite good stuff as well there. But I think something like Xabi Alonso coming in, it's definitely an appointment that they couldn't have done better, in my opinion. They absolutely could not have done better. And it's obviously partly circumstance, a little bit of luck, and a little bit of timing. And I think they've done well to get him.
Mark, look, how this season has gone, I mean, it's fallen way below expectations. They could be in a position where they don't even get European football for next season, having been the much vaunted world champions, if you like, last summer. Will this have told the owners this season in particular, like, there's the line in the sand, we need to change the way we do things, especially with how we recruit players? Yeah, like Jason said, it's been a learning process, and credit to the owners. They've taken the lessons from this season and implemented the lessons. What I'm saying is that Xabi Alonso is a big manager, and they've moved away from their kind of previous route of hiring inexperienced coaches. Now,
we all know that Rossini was very inexperienced. Even Maresca held out one full season as a manager when he was at Leicester. You know, Pochettino was the kind of in-between model, but he left after a year because he couldn't accept the recruitment policy. And prior to him, it was Graham Potter. So I think they've realised that if you want success, and success for Chelsea is being in the Champions League and winning trophies, so being out of Europe completely not only hits their prestige, it hits their bottom line as well. And these people are successful businessmen. They'll realise that to be successful, you have to get the right things done. They've made mistakes, they've corrected those mistakes. And Xabi Alonso, for me, is, you know, a year ago, he was the hottest property in coaching, wasn't it? And Real Madrid had kind of held off Liverpool a year before to get Xabi Alonso. They realised this was the guy. He basically stopped Bayern Munich winning endless Bundesliga titles. So, top manager, top coach. What happened at Real was, I mean, how do you explain it? He just went into a dressing room which has been uncontrollable for quite a long time. So, Chelsea getting one of the rising coaches in Europe is a player with great credentials as a player, rising star as a coach, and the players in that dressing room who basically brought down Liam Rossini, the results brought him down, but they were part of those results, they'll respect Xabi Alonso from day one. So Chelsea have basically said to these players, right, you've got no excuses now. Your excuse last time was the manager wasn't up to your standards, and he wasn't. Liam Rossini wasn't a Chelsea manager, but this guy is. So the players have got no excuses, and Chelsea have basically said, right, you perform now because you've got a coach that you can't complain about.
Jason, you mentioned it before. How important is that line between head coach and manager, particularly at Chelsea?
Yeah, you want to make sure it's not just lip service being paid by giving them the title, but I think actually there's a recognition that the manager needs to have more input, especially in the recruitment side of things. That's where they've got it wrong, and obviously there's lots of rumours been going around about how much power the owner wields at Chelsea in terms of influencing the team and the squad and so on. Obviously had all the stuff before about the medical staff and the stipulations that were put on the head coach there, even in writing, in terms of actually what happens. I'm sure Xabi Alonso's clarified that a lot more as to what's going to happen in terms of the structure of the club and the first team. That's really the nub of the matter with Chelsea. It's getting those things right, getting the recruitment right as well. We obviously talked a lot about the imbalance in terms of just going for the younger players. They've already talked themselves about redressing that by bringing in some more experienced players, especially a centre half. So he'll play a huge part in that. But at the same time, he's also worked in similar systems to this. I mean, you know, at Bayer Leverkusen and at Real Madrid, there were sporting directors. He didn't have the full managerial control, which very few people are going to get nowadays anyway. So he's walking into a situation which he's aware of. I think at Chelsea, there just seems to be so many chiefs. That's the problem, but I think they will try and streamline that a little.
To that point, I think Chelsea have got it on themselves to explain that a bit more, because they haven't got 5 sporting directors, they've got 5 people that do different jobs. Yeah. So just explain that a bit better, so people like us can't keep saying...
Lines of command, isn't it?
You've got 5 sporting directors, but they have different lines of responsibility. Recruitment, you know, technical director, they have different roles. So say that and explain it so that we're not saying 5 sporting directors sounds ridiculous.
He's got a big job, hasn't he, in uniting the fan base as well, because the fans... don't like what they've seen in terms of the structure of the club. They feel so detached from the way their club is being run that somebody like Xabi Alonso coming in and, as Jason says, recruiting senior players to plug the gaps where they've had way too much youth and promise with a view to future value, they could really unite the club.
I think you talk to Chelsea fans, what they say one of the biggest problems they've got is they've got nobody to really rally around at the club, not on the pitch and certainly not in the dugout. You know, there's nobody like in the past. They've obviously had big characters on the pitch and also big characters in the dugout, and that's not really happened before, whereas Alonso fits that bill.
We're talking about Alonso fitting the bill, and we're expecting the announcement. Well, it has just been announced. The big breaking news is that Chelsea have appointed Xabi Alonso as manager of the men's team. We were talking about that difference between a manager and a head coach. He will begin his role on July the 1st. And he's agreed a 4-year contract at Stamford Bridge. So that is now official from Chelsea. A day after they lost that FA Cup final to Manchester City, Xabi Alonso has been announced as the new manager of Chelsea on a 4-year deal. And then he'll start that job on July the 1st. Let's continue on the FA Cup final theme as well.
Can I say one thing before you continue? Even the fact there's a 4-year contract is sensible. It's not a 14-year contract. You know, even the fact there's a 4-year contract is more sensible.
It just feels like going back to the Abramovich era. They've got the best manager available, and that's what they always used to do. Yeah. And that will please the fans, because the fans want Chelsea to appoint the biggest name managers.
Because sometimes it's not rocket science, is it?
Yeah, exactly.
The person's there in plain sight. You just go and get them. He was available. Obviously, we talked about Liverpool before. He's available. He wants to work in the Premier League. Just get him.
But the fact that the way that their structure has worked, has that maybe put people off trying to become
I'm sure
the
it
Chelsea
has,
manager.
100%. But also, I think they probably haven't looked for those people either. They don't want that big personality. They didn't want that manager who would come in and want more say. They wanted somebody who they felt could develop with the team, like a Maresca or
Diminished
like
the role of manager by appointing Mourinho, but they've kind of restored that manager to the status it deserves.
That note, I did want to say congratulations to Manchester City yesterday, beating Chelsea in the FA Cup final. What a goal from Semenyo, hey? But congratulations to them. We did want to also talk, there's so much to get through, Mo Salah, because you probably saw what he posted on social media in the aftermath of that disappointing defeat to Aston Villa. Look, this is what he posted, but we just wanted to pick out a line, and it's the line that talks about heavy metal football. He said, "I want to see Liverpool going back to being the heavy metal attacking team that opponents fear and back to being a team that wins trophies." And he does go on to say a bit later on in that paragraph that the identity that needs to be recovered and kept for good, it can't be negotiable, and everyone that joins this club should adapt to it. Now, Peter, what is he doing here? Why has he put this out there?
I have absolutely no idea what he's doing. I can only think that this is his team, the team that he has around him. They've made him do that, and if that's the case, he's very ill-advised. This is not a clever move. I think what they're trying to do is to protect his image with the fans, or his legendary status with the fans. He doesn't have to do that. He's a Liverpool legend. He doesn't have to do anything. He's got one more game left if he's playing that game for Liverpool. And I think maybe you could speak a little bit more to that because you work in that business, but maybe his agents and his advisors are thinking we need to kind of build a narrative around Mo Salah so we can sell him to other clubs, give him good contracts, because the reality of Mo Salah's season is it's been very, very poor to his standards. So take the focus away from that. I've had a son in football who at times had the same urge to come out and react on whatever it is. And I've always said to him, sleep on it. Don't do it. And also, be the bigger person. If you have anything, go, be above it. Don't react, because that never goes away. That statement is out there forever. So whatever Mo Salah is doing for the rest of his life, he can find himself in a situation at one day where he needs a certain credibility. And that contradicts that credibility because, he's put a statement out which is something that it feels like it's something he's protecting for this moment in time. So for me, I feel that's a very, very weird statement to put out.
Yeah, I think for me, it's the time of the comment. You got your final game coming up.
And by the way, they are not guaranteed Champions League football because of the fact they lost to Aston Villa.
There's a lot of points to mention, time of the comment, not guaranteed Champions League. There's so much, last game, will he play? Do you know what I mean?
Should
what
he
does
play?
Arne Slot do? There's a lot to think about there. So the time of the comment is very peculiar because if you've got something strongly you want to say, you do it after the game, But
what's the point in the first place of saying it? What's the point?
But then looking ahead...
And he's so wrong, by the way. He talks about heavy metal football.
Yeah, which was Jurgen Klopp's
which is so... I mean, it's a Jurgen Klopp thing, right?
Yeah.
But he doesn't know Liverpool's story by saying that. Liverpool is a well-playing team that won championship after championship all the way up through the 70s and all the way in the 80s. And you look at how they won it last year. Jurgen Klopp won it once during COVID, right? Mm-hmm. Last year they won it, by playing great football, not heavy metal football.
Yeah.
So it's just the whole thing is so weird, isn't it?
It is, but then with that in mind, do you think Slot starts him on the final game of the season? Because we don't know at that point what the points tally will be. They haven't guaranteed Champions League football because of that defeat. So if you're Slot, what are you thinking, Wes?
Yeah, I think Slot has to make a statement, Listen...
But risk losing?
Well...
Not by
you look at
saying
Salah's form this season. Yeah. He's not been that player of old. He's not been that player
really
that
have they?
Been that match winner. This season there's been a lot of changes in terms of personnel. There's a lot for Slot to manage there, but Salah has to look at himself. He's not been that star player that's been leading the team, getting goals and leading them to glory. So if Slot decides to not play in the last game, then I don't think it affects the result directly. Yes, it's a game they need to win, but I think Slot needs to. He can't be coming across as a manager that can accept those type of comments and there's no punishment. You know, there has to be some type of reprimand. How that looks, it could be him not playing.
Is Slot there next season?
I think he will be. Yeah, I mean, obviously working around Liverpool a lot in the Premier League, but also in the Champions League, you get to know people, you speak to them. I don't think he's in any danger. I think he gets a chance to carry on the work that he's done, the changes that's been made this season. I don't think they're solely his changes. I think there's a lot of upstairs in those many players that came in. But yes, I'm convinced that Slot will be there next season.
So a bad night for Arne Slot on Friday, and it got worse, didn't it, after that 12th Premier League defeat of the season for the champions, we should reiterate, because Mo Salah took to X and posted this. What does the Scouser and the boyhood Liverpool fan make of this? And just to pick the highlights out of there, Kev, you know, I want to see Liverpool go back to being the heavy metal attacking team that opponents fear, and back to being a team that wins trophies, the identity that needs to be recovered and kept for good.
Yeah, I mean, it's a dig, isn't it? It's a proper dig, and he's leaving the club, and I think he said in his first statement as well about the culture change and everything else. So this sort of, you know, sums it up where Liverpool are at, and I think that's what he's looking for now. He's sort of putting it out there and telling the whole world basically what he's feeling, which is obviously something what we're not quite used to these days. But he wants to see what he believes was the mentality of winners and title contenders back at Liverpool, and he probably feels that since Klopp's left, that's what it sort of seems like, that he feels that it's gone.
And indeed, there might be a lot of Liverpool fans watching, agreeing with some of those comments from Mo Salah. There was a lot of talk, certainly in the last few weeks, that Xabi Alonso might be a contender for that Liverpool job next season. He is now the Chelsea boss and signing a 4-year contract. It's been quite a turnaround over the last couple of weeks there.
Yeah, I think there'll probably be some Liverpool supporters that are disappointed that he's not coming to their club. And I think, look, Salah has produced so much for that football club. I think he has a right to view his own thoughts. But I think it is part of the problem, is that someone like him that has been so poor this season is then coming out and kind of, I don't know, almost backing himself before he leaves to cement that connection with the supporters.
Well, I think he's trying to use that as an excuse, isn't he? He's saying, like, obviously the cultural change and everything, what's expected. He's not used to that, and he wants to see it go back to that. That's what he's sort of saying, and that's what's probably he's trying to use as an excuse for his own performance and how it's gone over the last year. Well, last year since.
Yeah.